Daniel.
Hi. Hey there, Maria.
It's great to have you here. You're the founder and creative director of Highly, and that's the high we saw behind you.
That's the shorthand for highly. It is indeed. Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation, Maria. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, it's mine as well because it's great to have you here because um, I'd like to talk about your journey and what you do at Highly, and it's quite an interesting one. We do have a similar background initially as we started off in the space, architecture,
Sure.
environments, places, and then you graduated in 2008, I believe, and
You'd be
it
right.
was the economic crisis.
Yes.
So you had to reinvent yourself and you shifted to, visual design, graphic design, branding, which is what you focus on. So, and right now, 2020, fast forward 2020,
I know.
COVID,
Yeah.
what's happening? How are you reinventing yourself? Uh, what are the challenges of all that?
Yeah, so we find ourselves, don't we, right now in a time where everything's uncertain, and that's exactly where we were around 2008, 2009, with the economic crash back then. And yeah, as you said, I graduated with a degree in architecture with the ultimate pursuit of being an architect and have my own architectural practice. So I love design, I love building, um, and and of course with the economic crash in Ireland particularly, the construction industry was pretty much annihilated back then. And so the opportunity to actually carry on and pursue that was pretty limited. Very, very few people, very few of my peers are still working within that industry. And I can count them on one hand from the amount of people who started with me on my journey to be an architect. And so, yeah, so right away, there was a period where I had to reinvent myself. So I took everything that I had learned and I reapplied all those techniques of learning what goes into creating space, like yourself, interiors, exteriors, structures, architecture, and I applied that to, how can I help local businesses basically? What skills do I have? I imagine that a lot of people now in 2020 are questioning just that as well. Maybe career paths are being questioned and looking at, okay, what do I do next, or how can I sidestep? Well, that's what I had to do back in 2008, 2009, is look at what skills did I have. So design was a great principle that I had learned a lot about, that I applied into graphic design and website design. You learn the principles, but the tools come afterwards. You can learn the tools as you go, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how I got into it, Maria. And of course, now in 2020, there had been a bit of a gap between 2008, 2009, and 2020, where in that period, my freelance career then developed into me starting a branding agency in Wales, in the UK. And and of course, I had only just got that off the ground when we hit with our international pandemic. Um, and of course, everything's got to change once again. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah. But, I see things because, everyone obviously got affected, as you said, uncertain times. Everyone's talking about, we have all kind of adjectives and um, terms that people are using to describe what's happening. But bottom line is, we can survive, we can adapt, we can do things
Right.
differently. And we're all doing it. That's how we met somehow as well. Uh,
Yes, it is. Just that.
so, what is it that you're doing right now? Because you took a pause, you created, a really cool 5 day long online course for free. uh, I, you know, it's great, and we're gonna talk about that later. But you've realized that many companies, small businesses, freelancers need or want to do something because either it's their only option or it's what they want to do now, or the circumstances happen that they have to rethink
Right.
differently. And you embarked on this journey of creating like a toolkit or a bundle that allows small businesses to reinvent themselves on their own without paying for someone to help them do
Sure.
that.
Sure.
Can you talk a bit about that and maybe take a step back as well and just say why is branding important for them?
Right. Sure. So part of the service that we would provide at Highly is designing brand identities, which would be things like logo design. And I know you've had podcasts in the past where we've explored those concepts. However, branding is a lot more than just a logo. It goes a lot deeper than that. It's really, if we were to start quoting people like Marty Neumeier, whose books are great, by the way, and very easily read. If anybody wants to find a book on branding, Marty Neumeier is a great source. Oh, we've got some on the shelf. Oh,
Yeah,
Maria's
I
looking
need
for
to look
one
for it.
somewhere. Yeah, they're great books. Well, branding, according to the likes of Marty Neumeier, is more about. Sorry, it's more than design. It's much more about the gut feeling that somebody has about your business. It's it's something that actually is in the hands of your customers and your target audience. It's what they think of you. It's your reputation, really. And we, as business owners or as aspiring business owners and freelancers, we can try to do our best to influence other people's gut feeling about our business. So, for example, one outcome of that might be to design a great logo. A great looking logo might have a different impact on our target audience um, if it was very well designed, as opposed to something that's perhaps quickly nabbed off the internet somewhere or created by our friend's brother's cousin's cat. It changes the perceived value of our business, right? And so one part of the service at Highly is before we get into the design is we look at how we can influence that. And in a summary way of saying that, that's the buzzword that you might hear people using is brand strategy.
Yep.
And brand strategy is just basically planning everything before you start implementing your brand. It's looking where you want to go down the line. So that's actually a really it's quite a time consuming process. And when you engage a branding agency, for example, to do a brand identity or a new website, they will want to go through a process with you to figure out a lot about your business and also a lot of external factors that might impact your business as well that I can certainly touch on. But that's quite an expensive process, and for small businesses, and in this time that we're in now where money is tight for a lot of people, where people are losing their jobs, where people are going to have to get creative and pick up the ball with the economy, right? And services like this normally cost £5,000, $5,000 plus with a branding agency. They might do lots of workshops with you. They'll do a lot of research on your company and around your company. But actually, if you've got the tools to do that yourself, then that's going to have a great saving for when you employ, say, a designer. But also, it's going to help serve your business and your brand, your vision, where you're going, so much better than just plucking ideas out of the sky. You will have direction, you'll have focus for your business, and it helps you really change your business into a brand, something that's well known, loved by people, and gets people talking about it. So yeah, that I think this is the shift that I made with my business is really I saw the need. I saw that people need help and they're not going to be able to afford those services. So that's exactly what I've been working on the last 6 months, is creating a toolkit that allows you essentially to equip yourself to figure out where you're going to go, and really help you through the process of creating the beginning of what is going to be an incredible brand. Um, it's ultimately at a fraction of the cost that it would
Yeah.
cost you otherwise. And really, this is probably not for everyone. It's probably not going to be for big brands. They'll definitely want to employ the consultancy services of a branding agency or experts. But for those who are getting started or who just want to step things up, those who are struggling, then actually having a plan, an action plan or a roadmap to where to go is going to be incredibly useful.
So your niche is basically small businesses, solopreneurs, um, looking to reinvent themselves or to create something today.
Yeah, sure. Or those who are already in that process who want to
Yeah.
grow and take things up a level. I mean, there's so many benefits to it, but I guess what I could do, Maria, is we could I could tell you a little bit about. I have 5 elements that you
Yeah.
should look at when you're looking at brand strategy, when you're looking at creating a plan. There's 5 things that you want to look at, and those 5 things are, first of all, your customers. Right, you've got to know your audience. You got to know what they like, what they don't like. Who are you targeting? Your, um, do you have a dream client that we often hear? Um, get to know those people and get to know their personality and what they have in common, and you can reflect that in your brand and your business. So that's the first part. Second part is to look at your own business plan. Where do you want to go? How is it made up in terms of your products and services? You've got to know that as well. That's
Absolutely.
part of the picture. You've got to know your competition as well. And your competition, I mean, this is such a vital part. Quite often we have blinkers on because I like the color pink and therefore my brand is going to be pink. Okay. It's so common and so easy to fall into that mindset. But actually, we need to change our mindset when we're looking at a brand from subjective, what we really kind of like, to objective. So how we can apply that when looking at competition, for example, is if all our competitors are using pink, then pink is probably not a color you want to focus on, because the idea of having a great brand and business is to stand out from the crowd, not blend in. And, standing out from the crowd means that we become more memorable. It allows us to, essentially do things like save money on marketing because, we're not fighting other people in the same space or with the same visuals. Um, so that's a competition. So the next 2 points that we want to look at when we're looking at the 5, we've looked at our customer, we've looked at our competition and our business. We want to then consider our brand, as in our brand identity, what we're recognized as, our name, our logo, the visuals, if we've got taglines, all those things that are wrapped up in our brand. That all comes part of that big picture, along with then our final point, which is looking at the goals of your business. So, and your brand, of course. So, if you want to be the biggest player in a certain niche in your area, well, that's really important to know when you're coming to put together a plan and a strategy, because it certainly helps designers or consultants or your team to know where to put their efforts and energy into. So yeah, there are 5 points that you can definitely take away when considering what goes into making a great brand strategy in the first instance.
Yeah, absolutely. These are massive points, and it's the basics of what one should look at um, before they start, but also along the way, all the time. Should be aware of what's happening and keep track on things, because you can always adjust and decide that how you can grow, because opportunities will come along the way as well. That's a really good way of putting things together, and I'm sure whoever is listening that fit into your niche can go back and rethink some of the stuff. And I'm not trying to sell anything here, but I think you're talking about your free course already is great for someone to get started at least. So
Yeah.
I think I'm fluffing here. I think I'm not trying to sell, but I truly believe that going through your free course would elaborate a bit more on what you're just saying at the moment, and that would be quite valuable for your niche. Um,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just touching on this free course, I've created a free resource that you can download by. Do you mind me mentioning the link?
no, no, of course. Go
No.
ahead.
Well, if you'd like to download and go through a free branding course, it is if you go to www.highly.co.uk/gut talks, it'll bring you to the registration for that free course. Now, that free course doesn't teach you how to design. What it does is it goes into that deeper level of brand strategy where we look at really the gold in there is looking at the DNA of a brand. What makes up, these big brands? How do they become household names? What elements do they utilize to really get known and become unforgettable to people who interact with them? And I give you those tools absolutely free of charge. I think everybody who owns the business should know those principles. And I touch on three very specific principles that make up the brand DNA. And that is, the D stands for being distinctive. You've got to be able to stand out, which is where we looked at competition before. We just mentioned that it's part of our brand strategy. And you might have to just go on to the free course to figure out what the N and the A stand for.
There we go.
So there we go. Give you something to do after you listen to this talk. It's actually it's a 5-day mini course. It's about 20 to 40 minutes each day. So you can take it at your own pace if you want. You can blitz it all in one go if you'd like as well. But yeah, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, as you said, I did another gut talk just to say that a brand is not a logo, and many people until today just think that if you have a logo, you have a brand. So the first thing they start doing is like, okay, I have a name, I'm gonna make a logo, I'm gonna create my Facebook page and my website, and that's it. But
Yeah,
it's way beyond. And I think that just reading, taking your free course, even reading about it and so on, will get people to understand because not everyone's is in the creative industry or running a
sure.
business or so on. Some people want to get started, some people know already, but it also gives you the tools to talk to your designers, to talk about your brand, to talk about your business, to sell your business. So all of that is quite important. Um, and I'd like to just give a quick teaser about your upcoming bundle because I've seen a preview of it a few months ago, and I do like the way you visually represent it. Uh, can you just go through the six points? And I'll yeah. Can you just go through the 6 points of it?
Yeah, I sure can. Yeah. Um, so I'm in the process of creating a toolkit.
Mhm.
I'm about halfway there, and very soon, not too long, there will be an opportunity for you to purchase it and use this toolkit to essentially save that £5,000 dollars with a branding agency, and it allows you to work with a designer and build your own brand like to the level of an agency level. I'm giving everything away, all my tips and tricks from what I've been um, using in Highly with my clients over the last nearly couple of decades in my experience. Yeah, so I break it down using the metaphor of building a building. Building a brand can be seen very similarly to like building a building. So I'm pulling out my architecture background
Yeah.
to demonstrate how this might work and how it might play out. So when you're considering building a building, okay, other than having a plan in place, in the drawings in place, the first thing you do is build your foundation. You've got to have a foundation. So when we talk about, and when you just mentioned about getting a logo and a name and a Facebook page up and a website up, that's actually like stage 3 or 4 of that's like building the exterior of your building before you've even put a foundation down. Let the foundation inform what your name is going to be. Have a think about all those five aspects that we talked about before you even choose your name. The foundation is right off the bat, where we look at things like your core values, and looking at your audience and your marketplace, your competition. We do all of that right there. That's the foundation of your brand. Once you've got a foundation in, you start to build the structure. And if we had a steel framed structure, you might put a steel frame up, all the beams and stanchions, and how we play that out in the brand in this toolkit is that we start to look at your goals, and you're looking at your dream clients, your brand personality, um, and other similar aspects like that we anchor everything to. Everything gets anchored to that structure. Then we look at actually this kind of a separate piece of this really is looking at your offering. So your products and services, that's the time to really nail that down, because we've already looked at our audience and our competition. Now we can look at our offering, our products and services, to see where is the gap, where is the opportunity as well for your business, rather than just taking what you know and what you do well. It's finding the place for that in your marketplace, and we do that there. So then we come back to the building and we start to build the exterior, which we just touched on, which is things like our brand identity, our name, our logo, our colors, typography, all of that lovely stuff that people see from the outside, is our exterior of our building. Then if we were to look at building a building, we'd be continuing that journey, looking at the utilities that go in. So our internal services get built after that in the process of building architecture. So, looking at our electrical first fix when we're in a building, and our plumbing and heating and all of that, that comes after the exterior. And that's what runs through the building and provides the necessity for people to be able to function within the building. So how we translate that with your brand, that's looking at things like our communication strategy and our brand story, that DNA that runs through our brand and how we communicate. That's when that comes in. I know we mentioned 6 points, but it's actually 8. It
Oh,
might end up 6 in the end. But once you've got your utilities done, you're now going to dress your interior. This is your specialty, Maria, the interior design, and how I play out that in this. Go ahead, yes.
oh, over 10 years ago, it was my specialty. Yeah, I still
Yeah.
get it, but yeah.
Yeah. So that you can't design the interior until the structure's built, right?
Yeah.
Until you know what space you've got to work with. And we translate that into then looking at the physical aspects of our brand that customers interact with. So things like our website, our products, how they're designed, even if it's your business card or the uniforms that you wear, that's the time to look at designing that aspect. That's how I paint it. It's what your internal team basically needs to use to basically stand before an audience, right? Then before our final point, which is essentially launching the building, opening day, and looking at how we can make the most of marketing and putting a strategy for marketing in place, we touch on then the team. So looking at things like team culture and processes that your team can use to best interact and best represent your brand. This is where we look at things like brand ambassadors. Your best brand ambassadors, if you've got a business or you're growing a business or want to grow a business, is your employees. It's so important that when every customer interacts with your team, that they get the same a consistent experience. It's a great experience, a familiar experience with every type of team member. If that's somebody on the phone or somebody behind the desk serving the tills, that they are your ambassadors. So that's really a big picture. This toolkit is essentially a fill in the blanks. There'll be lots and lots of exercises you can do on your own or with your team. Or if you, I mean, we were just talking about this yesterday, Maria,
Yeah.
about the aspect that actually, I might actually even be able to look at it, pairing you and your team up with a brand strategist to go through this process with them at a much lesser cost than what it would cost if you employed their services to do this all on their own.
I like the way you're, presenting or packaging it because, it's, I guess, a learning process for everyone. We started off talking about 2008, what happened, and reinventing yourself today, but today you have much more knowledge than you had, you know, 10 years or more ago. So, and this is what you want to communicate. But again, you're still building that toolkit, bundle, course, that framework that can be available. But anyway, what you touched on, and I do like the visual representation of it or the metaphor, because it's quite significant. And when you look at it, you understand what it takes to build a brand from zero to hero, if you,
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
say. But it's true. This is what one goes through. Thank you so much for that. I'm gonna post all your links below. Um, I think you also have a Facebook group for people who join the free course. So you just
Yeah,
have a
I think
chat with
that's
everyone.
that's
So
going to be for sure. That's going to be the best in. If you'd like to know about this actual paid toolkit that you can use, a framework that you can use, best thing to do is sign up for that free course and make sure that you opt into the email marketing, because that's where I'm going to be giving
mhm.
first look, first customer views, and potentially, as things grow and I add more to this course, it may get more expensive. So be part of the first people who hear about it and get most of it, get the most out of it, should I say? There was something you just touched on a little bit there, Maria, which I think might be useful for people to know. We talked about the temptation or the instinct for people, especially in business or starting out in business, to get the name they've always been dreamt of using, um, and put a logo up and just get going with the brand. And to some degree, that's okay to get started and to learn the ins and outs of business. But if you want to grow a brand that adds significant value, that where you can charge more money for your products and services, where people come back regularly, where they actually become brand ambassadors and they tell other people about your business and brand, then that's the power of really investing in that brand strategy before you start marketing. And in fact, the idea of getting a quick logo up, quick website up, and then applying money into marketing. Well, actually, if you've thought about your brand beforehand, it's going to cost significantly less to convert people who, say, visit your website into customers, because you've done your research, you've done your homework, you know how to build an emotional connection with those people, and you know what their needs are, you know what their pains are, and you are speaking to them because you've thought about it in a way that creates more action, and that's a measurable result.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're going to not only save a lot of money in marketing, but you're going to make a whole lot more money if you're in business. But especially at this time when we're in COVID season and post-COVID season, I mean, we're not quite out of it yet, but for
Yeah.
those listening after, we want to make sure that every penny we spend goes to the best use possible. We don't want it to be a hope. We don't want it to just a hit and hope. We want to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to bring back a really good return for your investment. And thinking about things and putting a good brand strategy in place before is going to do just that.
Um, Thank you so much for that. Tons of value. Um, I think it will get many people thinking, rethinking, or getting excited of doing something else today. Brand strategy is important. Strategy in general is important with great execution. That's what matters. So thank you so much for that, Dan. Yeah, I'll post all the links below. You have a great Instagram page as well with lots of content. So there we go.
Yeah, that might be worth checking out. That's
Yeah.
at Branding Dan. If you've reached this far in the podcast, then
Yeah.
thanks for listening. Thank you so much for having me, Ray. Really appreciate it, and it's always wonderful speaking with you.